All right, welcome back to One Bills Live. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and pleased to be joined now by the guy who will be on the call for the NFL on CBS on Sunday for Bills-Patriots here in Week 17, along with Trent Green and Melanie Collins. It's veteran play-by-play man Kevin Harlan, kind enough to join us here. Kevin, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Good to have you with us. It's an interesting rematch here because, you know, the Patriots pulled one over on the Bills back in Week 7. What piques your curiosity the most with this one on Sunday?
Well, clearly the Bills are in kind of an unfamiliar position. Usually they've got things wrapped up with the playoff spot and now just trying to secure the division. And usually that has been pretty secure by this time. So it's kind of a foreign area they're in right now. But, you know, a lot of teams are kind of going through this. Kansas City is one of them. Cincinnati clearly is. And the Bills, these are three teams that have been perennially the top teams in the AFC over the last couple years. So the Bills have work to do, but boy, the path is pretty clear, isn't it? If they win Sunday against the Pats, if they can beat Miami on Sunday down there next week, they've got the division, a high seed, and they are going in a very familiar way down the road. But it's one at a time, clearly. They can't overlook New England, as you say, beat them before. So they've got to keep on doing what they've been doing, which is winning and finding a way to win. No team is great. All teams are flawed. And I speak with San Francisco and Baltimore in mind with that. So the Bills, you know, have a chance to really do something special. They've got momentum, and we'll see if they can continue that against a New England team, which itself feels like they've got some momentum at this stage of the season.
And it's interesting, too, because we see this all the time, and it's a week-to-week league, so we're all about this week, this team's the best team that's ever existed, and next week they stink, right? So we've seen this. Miami came out of the gates very fast. They hung 70 points on Denver. Then they came to Buffalo and got smacked. And then you've got other teams that are putting together strings during the season, and it's hard to keep doing it. The Niners, they went through a 3-game losing streak. So did other teams. How important do you think it is, and how good do you have to be to show enough that you can get it together at the end of the season, put together a run? And we've seen other teams do it in the past, but how likely is it for a team like Buffalo? They got to win 5 in a row at the end of the season to get in and then just keep it going for 4 more games. I mean, that's a big ask.
It is, but a team like the Bills are built structurally for it. Some teams are not. Like Kansas City, I don't mean to keep bringing them up, but they're the defending champions. And we know how strong they've been, but the Bills did a pretty good job on them earlier this year. I would say that the boxes that need to be checked for the Bills are checked. If they get Micah back this week, that'll be big, clearly. I think everybody thinks that, Diggs has disappeared, but maybe they've used him in a different way. I would think the Bills' best football is still ahead of them. And listen, in this conference, more so than the NFC, think of the landmines that are out there. Think about if you're playing a Buffalo or a Kansas City in round 2, and maybe the Chiefs have got to go on the road. The Bills may have to go on the road, clearly, if they're going to make it all the way to the championship game. I mean, there's just a lot here at play. Even the Bengals could get in there, nose their way in. And Baltimore is the one team in the league among the top teams that has not hit that trough. I heard someone the other day talk about, are they peaking too early with that sensational win over San Francisco on Christmas night? I mean, to me, there are so many avenues here for any of these teams to find their traction. And why not the Bills? They seem to be gaining that kind of momentum. In fact, of all the teams, Baltimore aside, they have, I think right now, as good a shot as any is finding that sweet spot in terms of, we are hitting on all cylinders. Everybody is healthy. We're continuing to move and ascending as opposed to plateauing or trying to keep what we've got. They, to me, I think there's nothing more powerful than finding that momentum at this time of year. It's a whole new season. And the Bills seem to be finding whatever it is they've lacked right now. And whether it's the change in coordinator, who knows what it could be. But the message is getting across, and they're performing. There's all teams are flawed, but right now you look for who's kind of got it together at this stage, and the Bills are at the top of that list.
Yeah, and Kevin, a month ago, this team was 6-6, and
Yeah.
even though Josh Allen had been extraordinarily productive, he had been all but written off as an MVP candidate for this league. But if this team can clinch a playoff berth, get in, dare I even say win the division, and kind of pull the rug out from under the Dolphins here right at the end, does he have a chance to climb back into that league MVP conversation? He leads the league in offensive touchdowns. Could he steal it from somebody like a Lamar or even a Christian McCaffrey?
Oh, yeah. No, he's right there. I think in no particular order, Jackson has done such a wonderful job with Baltimore. But what Josh has done, and he told us just this yesterday, and his teammates and his coach said, right now, he is playing the best football of his career. Now, I know they're looking at the interceptions, but you know what? This is Brett Favre. This is a modern day Brett Favre. And you guys have probably heard that. But from a distance, I think people are saying there's going to be good and bad. There's going to be a quarterback who is constantly pressing the boundaries, trying to get to the precipice and figure out how far he can step over it, pushing the envelope. I'd rather have a quarterback like that who's constantly doing these things. You've already mentioned that the combined rushing and passing touchdowns, he is producing. And he's right now, I think, in a very comfortable position. Of course, you don't want to see all the interceptions. I think like Favre, it kind of is part and parcel with who you are, what you are, who you are. The way he's wired, he is never going to turn down from a challenge. And sometimes it produces something like, you got to hide your eyes. And other times, most of the time, it produces, how did he make that throw? How did he pull off that play? How did he get so close to the sideline and complete the and score it's amazing the thing that this guy can do. So Lamar, because he's been so good throughout the season, even though his numbers don't compare necessarily to what Josh has done. Jalen Hurts at Philadelphia has got to be on that same conversation. Tyreek Hill, especially if he gets over 2,000 yards receiving. McCaffrey, as you mentioned, those are the names right now. I will tell you this, after every Monday night broadcast, I asked Kurt Warner, who's the MVP? Every week it has been a different guy. And I think we're going to go literally to the final snap of the final game of the regular season before anybody has a clear distinction. And even then, it may be a 5 or 4 person race to get it. It's probably going to be about as close a vote as we've seen. But Allen, if he can finish the way he's played and win these next 2 games, absolutely. If he's not 1, he's 1A. And if he's not 1, he's a close number 2. And then I think it's a flip of the coin when you look at the top guys. Clearly, he is in that running. Absolutely. If they can beat the Patriots and if they can get that division. And even if they don't get the division but get in, he still is in the conversation.
We started this season, and the AFC just seemed like they were really stacked with quarterbacks. I mean, there was a ton of guys, and now with Deshaun Watson going down, now you got Joe Flacco thrown back into the mix, who's playing at a high level. But Cleveland even with Joe Flacco playing well, there's backup quarterback. Jacksonville may or may not have a backup quarterback this week. Indianapolis lost their quarterback. Houston lost their quarterback now for the last couple of weeks. Pittsburgh has been vacillating from Kenny Pickett to Mason Rudolph to Cincinnati. Joe Burrows is down. Vegas has made. I mean, the quarterbacks are all over the place. Now you get into the playoffs, and you're looking at Lamar, Pat,
Tua.
Josh, Tua. I mean, it's a kind of an. I may be oversimplifying it, but if your quarterback stayed healthy throughout the entire year, it seems like you filtered to the top of the heap.
Well, Josh is indestructible, and Lamar is he's like Gumby, right? Like he can bend and twist and go, and he's like a nunchuck. He's like 18 different directions. Like you can't, he stayed healthy, and it has paid off for the Ravens. Tua has stayed healthy. Maybe one of the more underreported stories, has a special helmet now designed just for quarterbacks to protect those that concussion string that he was going through. He stayed healthy, taking every snap that's mattered, and it has paid off. And look at the team. So all the guys we thought would be there. Now Mahomes has had the worst numbers of his career. Kansas City's clunky. Kansas City, They clearly are not what they've been. I don't know if it's length of drive routines that they've had for 4 straight years. They've been right to the bitter end. The seasons have been long, but then Josh has gone through long seasons, and Burrow's gone clearly in Cincinnati, but that team has gone through long seasons. There's that mental focus thing that I think that mental weight that these perennially good teams carry, that it weighs on them. And to have the target on your back like Josh does, or Mahomes does, or Burrow does, or now Tua has every week, Lamar, I mean, that wears on you after a while. It is clearly worn on the Chiefs. They're not the same team. They just aren't. But they don't have a Diggs, and it looks like they don't have a Cook. And the quarterback for the Bills has been better than the quarterback of the Chiefs. So, yeah, I mean, the quarterbacks are there, but standing upright is huge. Mahomes has not been injured. I mean, he's had the nicks like all these guys have, but he's not been injured. But you've got to have a quarterback who's in the driver's seat and has got his hands on the wheel 90% of your season if you want to be what you thought you were going to be. And Josh clearly has done that. And Mahomes, I think, has just been kind of soiled actually by what's around him. He's been failed by, there's a lack of trust. There's been a lot of drops. So the Chiefs aren't there. Burrow is out. And now you've got Tua, who is standing on there. And like we said, it could become a Bills versus Miami Dolphins final game of the season for the division title type games, with two quarterbacks who have had their hands firmly on the steering wheel all season long.
Kevin, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. Safe travels here to Buffalo, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Look forward to it. Happy New Year, guys. Happy holidays. Great to be on with you. Thank you so much for having me.